Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here. You're watching As the Reel Turns with Daniel Saletti. Yay!
And welcome once again to As the Reel Turns, your place for all things movie and television. Now we've got a great show for you, a little bit different, but that's not going to stop us from doing our entertainment update, so take it away.
Hi everyone, how's it going? This is Mayla Lee for your entertainment update. Today's update will include 2 updates with 2 birthdays. So let's get underway. Gene Kelly is back, sort of? MCU star Chris Evans will play the classic song and dance man in a new upcoming film. The film will be about Kelly's new friendship with a young boy in the 1950s. Funny enough, Daniel had the same exact thought a long time ago. Evans must have read his mind.
For you, Elizabeth Olsen just revealed that you are a tap dancer.
Aw, she's out there saying that to everybody. Listen. All right. Yes, I did grow up tap dancing, but I can't say I'm a tap dancer.
Oh, that's
Can you hear it? You can't hear the
We
tap.
can hear it.
They were good. They were clean.
Next up, where has The Weakest Link been? The popular British game show was rebooted for a second time in the US in 2020, and fans were anxiously awaiting the second season. Finally, it's back with Jane Lynch hosting once again. You can watch the new Weakest Link Sundays at 9 on NBC. Or you could choose not to and be, the weakest link.
You are the weakest link. Jane Lynch hosts The Weakest Link, coming soon to NBC. Goodbye.
Lastly, March celebrates 2 big sci-fi birthdays. On March 22nd, William Shatner turns 91. Then, just 3 days later, his Star Trek co-star, Leonard Nimoy, would also have been 91 on March the 26th.
It seems really superfluous me to ask whether you had a good time together.
No, it was terrible. Terrible. I don't want to embarrass the man in front of his wife and his nice daughters. I mean, why are people saying all these nice things about him? He's a terrible man. He's cruel. You owe me a bicycle.
That's all I've got for today, so you've been updated. This has been Mayla Lee for your entertainment update. Back to you, Daniel. Okay, bye!
How cool is that? My new and good friend Mayla doing the entertainment update, and I totally agree with all 3 of those points. It'd be cool to see Chris Evans do Gene Kelly, love The Weakest Link, and here's to you, Bill and Leonard, absolutely. So, like I said, we have a great show, but a little bit different, because you're gonna see me and only me. It's gonna be just a solo show today, but that's okay, because if you look back, some of the great talk show hosts have done their shows by themselves. Take Craig Ferguson. Before he had Jeff Peterson and Secretariat, he did the show by himself. Albeit with the occasional puppet, but having puppets on this show would just be really weird, honestly. I said it'd be really weird. Anyway, we got a great show for you. And as you can probably tell from the outfit and the set, we are going to be talking about some Irish movies. You can't go wrong with the Irish drinking song from Whose Line? I mean, come on, it's an instant classic. So yes, right on the cusp of March, we're going to be talking about some Irish movies. Now, what this means is we're going to be talking about movies that are set in Ireland or about people from Ireland. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily biographical. We'll have one or two of those, but it will be about those types of people. And not to worry, you won't hear me ramble the entire show because we will have some guests to give their thoughts spliced in throughout the show. But let's get right on it. So the first couple we're going to talk about are highly Americanized Irish movies. And this one has a reputation for being that, iffy one. This is a 1950s film called The Quiet Man. Now, if you ask me, I would never have cast John Wayne, yes, the John Wayne, the Duke, in an Irish movie. This is the trailer you're seeing, and if you've never heard of this movie, that's okay, but basically it's about John Wayne's character of Sean Thornton, and, you know, trying to keep up his family's homestead, and we get introduced to his fiery sister, Maureen O'Hara, with her character Mary Kate, and there's a romance between her and John Wayne's character, and there's also a third wheel, her brother, Will Danaher. No, I'm sorry, not Will Danaher, just another third wheel there, played by Victor McGlone. And I thought, you know, this movie has a bad reputation because it's famous for John Wayne kind of beating up Maureen O'Hara there, and we can clearly see how rough he is with her in this trailer. Now, like I said, I would really never have cast John Wayne in an Irish movie. He said, you know, when I was looking this up, because I had personally never seen it, he leaves America to go back to Ireland. And, you know, he must have stayed in America for a long time, because he really has no brogue at all, which is what an Irish accent is called. It's called a brogue. Now, we'll learn in other movies that some tried to put a brogue on, but I don't know. Having John Wayne, again, even Maureen O'Hara, I mean, her name might be Irish, but her, So, my recommendation is if you want to see John Wayne, not in a cowboy movie, but in an Irish movie, check out The Quiet Man. But just be warned, if you're one of those people who don't like the type of movie where a man beats up the woman constantly, maybe don't check this one out. But I can tell you some people who did check it out and did have some opinions on it. It's our friends, the DeBly sisters, Michaela and Ashley. So let's take a look at what they had to say about this.
Hi, I'm Michaela.
I'm Ashley.
And we're from DeBly Sisters Productions. And today we are here to talk to you guys about Irish movies. And just so you guys know, we're reading the summaries from IMDb, and we looked at Google reviews for the ratings and comments that people have left on there. So let's begin.
The Quiet Man, released in 1952, was directed by John Ford and was adapted from The Taming of the Shrew. In it, a retired American boxer returns to the village of his birth in 1920s Ireland, where he falls for a spirited redhead whose brother is contemptuous of their union. According to Google, it received a 4.7 out of 5 stars, and people have said O'Hara and Wayne have a great chemistry together. They call it a classic to some, other people seem to love it, and people like to often watch it on St. Patrick's Day. Other comments received were that it was charming in its own odd way, even though it may be a bit sexist with some uncomfortable moments.
So overall, good reception.
4.7. That's almost a 5.
It's pretty good.
Interesting points, if you ask me, but again, this is this is a movie that I wouldn't necessarily put on my St. Patrick's Day list of movies to watch. But I will tell you one that is fun and fun for the whole family. It's a Disney movie. Everybody likes a good Disney movie. And if you thought casting John Wayne as an Irishman was weird, well, how about a Scotsman? And there's no other famous Scotsman than Sean Connery himself in a 1950s film called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. So Darby O'Gill and the Little People is basically what you would think that title is. It's about a guy named Darby O'Gill who slips upon a place to find the leprechauns in Ireland. And you come in contact with another man here played by Sean Connery. And we also get his daughter, Darby O'Gill's daughter, Katie, played by Janet Monroe. And the only really big thing that I take away from this movie is a nice little song that came from this movie called Pretty Irish Girl that's sung by Janet Monroe and Sean Connery. And you can find this song on the interweb. Just look it up, Pretty Irish Girl, Darby O'Gill. And we'll cover this when we cover James Bond. Now, this is pre-James Bond, so Connery was not as big of a star as he was. But his singing is actually not that bad. You know, you look at Sean Connery, you think, yeah, I don't know about that. But his singing is actually not half bad, and I really do like it.
Oh, she is my dear, my darling one, her eyes so sparkling full of fun. No other can match the likes of her. She is my dear, my darling one, my smiling and beguiling one. I love the ground she walks upon, my darling Irish girl.
Oh, she is my dear, my darling one, her eyes so sparkling full of fun. No other can match the likes of her. She is my dear, my darling one, my smiling and beguiling one. I love the ground she walks upon.
Now, where did you hear that?
Michael was singing it.
She is my dear, my darling one, my smiling and beguiling one. I love the ground he walks upon, my darling Irish girl.
One of those people who want an accurate movie about Irish people, well, this might not be the one. But it's really just a fun Disney romp is what it is, about Irish people. And if you want to delve deeper into this movie than you already have been, if you haven't seen this or want to, Walt Disney himself did a mini documentary, you could call it, about the making of this movie. And he puts a little twist on it. He actually makes it like he went to visit the leprechauns in Ireland to get permission and say, hey, do you want to be in this Irish movie I'm making? Totally up Walt Disney's alley, totally silly, but it really is a fun little movie. And again, we also have the DeBly sisters give their points on good old Darby O'Gill.
So this next film is called Darby O'Gill. It's directed by Robert Stephenson and is distributed by Walt Disney. It is a family fantasy film, and it's about a wily old codger matches wits with the king of the leprechauns and helps play matchmaker for his daughter and the strapping lad who has replaced him as a caretaker. So the rating is 4 out of 5, not too bad. The comments for this one is some people see it as a beloved children's film. It brings back memories for them when they watch it. And they think it's charming with the acting, scenery, humor, and plot. And most say if you don't see it, then you're missing out.
I think I need to see it then.
Yeah, I mean, might as well if it's a beloved children's film for most people.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Again, it's a silly movie, but I certainly like it, and I would add this to my list. I mean, keep it in mind. Who knows? Maybe the leprechauns will give you a little bit of an idea of what they look like. So let's move on now. You know, there are tons of movies out there that are fun about when it comes to Ireland, but we also want to look at the serious side because it's had a lot of ups and downs in its history. And I mentioned we'll be talking about a few, or at least one biographical one, and here is it definitely. This was a 1996 movie called Michael Collins. Now, if you're like me and you hear the word Michael Collins, I think, that third astronaut in Apollo 11 who did not go to the moon. Most people don't even know about poor Mike Collins, but apparently this movie is not about that one. This is about the Revolutionary Army leader when it came to the Irish War for Independence from Britain. And Michael Collins here is played by Liam Neeson, who is Irish. Thank God, we actually have an Irishman in an Irish movie. What a concept. There are also a few other names in this movie, also, like Aidan Quinn, and then everybody's favorite Harry Potter villain, Alan Rickman. I have never, I'm gonna be honest with you here, I have not seen a lot of these movies, which is unlike me. And I always hesitated about this one because when it comes to movies, I always look at the rating first, and this one is rated R. I reference back to the rom-coms episode we did. There will be some of these movies that are rated R, and I can see that because, you know, this movie is about war, first of all, so there's a lot of violence. And second of all, you have to keep in mind, Ireland is a European country. They will take certain words and certain language that is said here in America, and it could be like a lower key word, if you know what I mean, on the profanity scale. Also, Julia Roberts, I forgot that she was in this. So definitely names are scattered around this movie. But anyway, the language is definitely going to be an issue. That's the only thing that you may want to think about when coming to this movie. But I think it's definitely a good watch to give you a good history lesson and to tell you a little bit about Michael Collins. And if you don't watch it for the movie, maybe listen to the music, because the music's by Elliot Goldenthal, who did the 2 Joel Schumacher Batman films, which is pretty cool, I think. But let's hear what the DeBlies sisters have to say.
And Michael Collins was a movie released in 1996, directed by Neil Jordan and distributed by the Warner Brothers Pictures and the Geffen Film Company. Hopefully that's pronounced correctly. And in this war drama, Neil Jordan's historical biopic of Irish revolutionary Michael Collins, the man who led a guerrilla war against the UK, helped negotiate the creation of the Irish Free State, and led the National Army during the Irish Civil War. And according to Google, it was given a rating of 4.5. People say it has everything from loyalty, friendship, betrayal, and everything in between as the Irish struggle for independence. People say it has great characters, amazing settings, and fantastic music, and also features acting from Liam Neeson, Julia Roberts, and Alan Rickman.
That's quite a cast.
Big names.
Very big names.
So, if you're looking for a fun Irish movie to watch on St. Patrick's Day, this might not be the one, but it'll be a good history lesson, like I said. So, I think I recommend it at least. Another based on a true story, you could say, film was a movie that does star a very famous Irish person that you will constantly see in a few movies here and there. Whenever they need an Irish person, it almost seems. Colm Meaney. And this movie is called The Commitments. Now, I had heard constantly about this movie. You know, especially when I would ask. There's Colm Meaney standing up there. I'll do a quick sidetrack here. Colm Meaney, famous for playing Miles O'Brien on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, so points for that. But yes, I was constantly told about this movie, and you know, whenever I say, what's an Irish movie? This is usually in like the top 5. They always say The Commitments. So I had to ask myself, what is The Commitments? So, if you've never seen it, it's a movie about a bunch of friends that decide to make an R&B group in Ireland. Because they watch it on TV, as you saw in the trailer here, they start enjoying the music, and they say, oh, we could do that. So they decide to form a band, and they play music all over the place. And the other funny thing about it is, like, you go to Ireland, you don't see too many people like this. These are all white guys, R&B. Usually at the time of this movie, it's black people music. So it's really kind of cool to see them flipping the color barrier there. And it's almost in the line of like Elvis Presley. You know, he brought that music into the mainstream, which was kind of cool. The other thing I didn't know about this movie was that it was a novel at first. So I think it actually is not a bad premise. I like this idea a lot, and I think this would be a fun movie. Again, like Michael Collins, though, due to language and I think, well, we saw in the green screen there, languages are definitely sure, but I think sex is also a part here. It is rated R, so keep that in mind if you want to check it out. It would be an iffy number for me, but that is all to me. Let's see what the DeBly sisters think about it.
I say check it out. Just like all of these films.
Check them out.
Check them out.
So again, I think having a band doing American black music in Ireland, it's different, but I'll give it to them. Sure, why not? Let's give it a try. So we've been talking about a lot of biographical movies, so let's keep going with this, and based on true story type things, and dramatic ones as well. This is a more recent movie that definitely got a lot of, it was big Oscar bait in 2015 and 16. And this is a movie called Brooklyn. Now, if you hear this title, you initially would think, oh, this can't be about Ireland. I mean, it's called Brooklyn. It has to be about New York. Well, that's going to be that's a theme in a lot of these Irish movies. I mean, the Irish coming to America, seeking a new start, American dream, all that good stuff. And that was the case for Ellis Lace, who is I hope I say this name right. I can never get it exactly right. Saoirse Ronan, who is a rising star. She's been in a couple things. And it's about basically her trip to America. She feels like she's a little homesick, but then realizes she must choose between the two countries and which one she wants to live in. A few names in here as well, as we just saw there. Jim Broadbent, who is laughingly called that British guy who's in everything. But yeah, no, I think it's an interesting premise. I know a lot of people who saw this and they said they loved it, and it definitely was a big Oscar bait movie. And I think it's not a bad premise, I think. If you want to definitely check it out, it's more American than Irish, but sure, why not? Because we still have an Irish person in here, like I said in the beginning. And I also like the fact that she tries to adapt and get to know all the American customs, and although her Irish still shows, so that's kind of fun. And so I think the DeBly sisters have something to say about this. Let's give them a shot at what they think.
Great. So this next film that we have is called Brooklyn, released in 2015. It was directed by John Crowley and adapted from the novel of the same name, Brooklyn. And in it, an Irish immigrant lands in 1950s Brooklyn, where she quickly falls into a romance with a local. When her past catches up with her, however, she must choose between two countries and the lives that exist within. It was rated a 4.7 star, and people found that it was well directed and well edited. It had good cinematography and costume design, and a reviewer by the name of Haley Hughes wrote, "This movie emphasizes falling in love but also puts a spotlight on great sadness." Sounds like it has a whole range of different emotions and feels in that one.
So, what is it, a romance drama?
It's a romance drama.
So, you know, if you're in the mood, it sounds like a good film.
Torn between two cultures, culture clash.
Brooklyn. I think it's a great movie. I do recommend this, and I definitely think it is a worthy movie to put on my list for St. Patrick's Day movies. Now, if you thought Darby O'Gill was silly, this might be the most ridiculous thing you're going to ever hear. Now, there has been a show ever since the late 80s and early 90s. There's been a show that has traveled the world. It's called Riverdance. And Riverdance has been basically, there wasn't a solid story to it, but it was about Irish dancing. It's a complete dance show. There's no spoken word or anything. And it basically shows off the different types of Irish dancing. There's a few storylines here and there. There's a few different types of dancing, you know, Irish hard shoe meets American tap dancing. There's a flamenco dancer. It's a fantastic show. and it was originally performed by great dancer but not so great a guy Michael Flatley, Gene Butler, Colin Dunn, all those wonderful dancers. And they had their 20th anniversary just recently too, which was really cool. So I thought, if you came to me and said, hey, we want to make a movie off of this show, I'd say sure. Stage shows have been turned into movies before, but not like this. This is Riverdance: The Animated Adventure.
Come on.
Now when I first saw this, I think the most direct and honest opinion answer I could give was, whose idea was this and what fever dream were they having? And I can see already in the booth next to me, our producer Matt is looking at this and he's thinking, what the heck is going on here? And he's laughing at it too, I can tell. I have no words for this. And if you want me to be completely honest with you, it gets weirder because here's the direct premise. I'm going to read this to you while we see the trailer. An Irish boy and a Spanish girl journey into the mythical world of Megalorus Gigantus, who teach them to appreciate Riverdance as a celebration of life. So basically, these two kids stumble upon dancing deer with funky antlers, and they learn about dancing. Who's confused? I am. But it gets weirder because we have names in this like Brendan Gleeson, Lily Singh, and Mr. Irish himself, Pierce Brosnan. So the cool thing is that they used the music from the show. They used the actual Riverdance music, which was awesome. And I approve of that. But my question is, why? Why would you make something like that? And why would you not actually do something like the actual stage show did? Well, I'm out of ideas. Let's see what the DeBlies sisters think.
Alright, this next film is titled Riverdance: The Irish Adventure. It was released in 2021, so a pretty recent one, and it was directed by David Rosenbaum, and it was distributed by Netflix, and this is an animated film. And in this film, an Irish boy named Keegan and a Spanish girl named Maya journey into the mythical world of the Megaloceros Giganteus, who teach them to appreciate Riverdance as a celebration of life. It was rated 4 stars, and it is a tale about grief and love, but while also allowing your community to help you heal. It's full of good lessons, colorful scenery, funny jokes, and great dancing. Now, Riverdance, that's a pretty intense dance. Takes a lot of coordination and leg muscles. So interesting to see how they animated it.
Yeah, that must have been difficult.
Must have been
difficult.
If you want a good kid Irish movie, this might be the one. But before you hit play, make sure to tell them that there's a far better stage show out there, and look it up on their tour and see if you can go find a show. Now, they're hard to find sometimes, but you can find them. If you're watching in New Hampshire, closest place is probably Boston. Or Manchester sometimes, because I saw them in Manchester. But yeah, Riverdance: The Irish Adventure, you just may want to strap in for that one. It's gonna be weird. If you already aren't weirded out. But let's move on from that one. Let's actually move on to a weirder one, if you ask me. So, in the 80s and 90s, there was a craze of horror. Actually, it started more in like the 70s and the 60s, but you know, it just got bigger and darker throughout each decade. We've had Jason, we've had Michael Myers, we've had Freddy Krueger, we've had way back all the Universal classic monsters. The list goes on and on. Somebody in Ireland must have said, well, darn, we feel left out. How can we jump into the horror craze? Okay, maybe it wasn't an Irishman, maybe it was just some drunk American. But we got a weird movie that started in the early 90s. Leprechaun, the horror franchise. Yeah, Leprechaun, the horror franchise. If you take... So here's the equation I propose to you. You take a Warwick Davis, who was famous for playing Wicket the Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and also like 7 different teachers, it seems like, in Harry Potter. So you take Warwick Davis, you add an obsessed leprechaun looking for me gold, and within that hunt, he's going to kill every single person that gets in his way. This is what you get. You get Leprechaun. Now, I'll give the trailer this as we're watching it. They don't show Warwick Davis at all. So that's kind of a cool trick, you know, to get the audience to go see this movie. I don't know. I know I have a lot of horror friends out there, and even lesser horror fans, more like general movie fans, that look at this franchise and they kind of laugh at it. And it really is that laughable, because why would you create a franchise based on a harmless little Irish folklore character? Well, something must have worked, because there have been 1,001 sequels, it seems like. And they've gotten even stranger than the original concept. We've had the Leprechaun in space. We've had the Leprechaun in the hood. We've had... I don't know how many more, but it's crazy. It's crazy what they come up with. And your eyes are not deceiving you. That was Jennifer Aniston in that movie. Right before Friends, I believe, too. So thankfully she got out of this franchise and joined a better one. But I know the DeBly sisters are huge horror fans. They make horror movies, so they must have a word on this movie.
So the summary, it is a evil, sadistic leprechaun that goes on a killing rampage in search of his beloved pot of gold. Now, its rating was 3.9. Some people called it a classic. Some called it a top-tier horror. There was mixed reviews on it, which is, I feel like, pretty normal for horror films back in the 90s due to what they were able to do.
Yeah.
But some also have said it's a fun slasher, like so bad it's good. You know, like those kind of type of films where it's fun to sit down with the friends and watch something like that.
I feel like this movie's probably definitely a cult classic. It has a pretty good, like, underground following.
Yeah, and entertaining is what they said. I do know that my mom put this on the other day, and I was like, what is this? And then I ended up sitting down and just, like, watching it, because it was, like, some part of me was just, like, amazed by what was going on. And I was just, like, captivated for some weird reason.
Like, you have to know what's going to happen. What's going on?
Yeah, and then I went, oh, that's Jennifer Aniston. I'm like, what is she doing in this? And then I just ended up watching some more.
Yeah, that recognizable face. And this is a horror comedy, so it's a bit of a different genre, a bit of a stretch from all the rest on the list, so that also puts it out a little bit more.
It's definitely, it would be a fun night to sit down with friends and watch something like that.
Something silly, but also to satiate that horror mood you're in.
Someone, it was pretty funny, I didn't write this, but someone did say they watched it in their childhood and it frightened them so bad, so they gave it a really bad review.
Hey, it got the spook points.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been a great review because of that.
Yeah. I'm not a big horror fan, and even I might see this movie just to see how bad it is, because that's all I know is just it's not very much appreciated in the horror community. But if this is your thing, by all means, go do it. Have some fun. I think I'd rather see Warwick Davis in Star Wars and Harry Potter. Just saying. But let's move on to a lighter film, also from the early 90s. This is a movie simply called Into the West. Now, Into the West has a very simple premise. These two boys, basically, these two boys live with their widowed father, who croaks.
What's his name?
And we learn that they come in contact with this magical horse, who comes from a legend told to them by their grandfather. And this horse's name is Tir na Nog. Tir na Nog, yes. And they decide to take the horse over. They adopt the horse and they maybe bring him to America. They oh, why not? But then the bad policemen find out and they want to sell the horse and they want to capture the horse and make it a racing horse. So it becomes a rescue mission to rescue poor Tir na Nog. This is a nice family picture. It really is. I mean, everybody likes a good, fun Irish movie. And there's Colm Meaney once again. Told you he's everywhere. And if you want a good horse movie, this is a good one. I mean, there are plenty of those racing movies out there. There's like Seabiscuit, there's Secretariat, there's, you know, there's a ton out there. But this one I think gets left behind sometimes because people don't really know of it. I mean, it's mainly an Irish movie, first of all, but it's also a fun horse movie too. And I kind of like this. I remember seeing it. It's always a cute little romp of a movie. And there's really no huge names in this except for Colm Meaney. And that's about it for big names that people would know. But nevertheless, it's a really fun movie. And I do recommend this one. But let's see if the DeBly sisters agree with me.
So this next film that we have is Into the West, released in 1992, directed by Mike Newell. And the summary for this is, Grandpa Ward gives a horse he found to his grandchildren, who keep it in their tower block flat in Dublin. The horse is stolen from them, and the two young boys set out to find it and flee on it. It didn't have a star rating on it, but it was found that 80% or 87% of its viewers liked it. People's favorite parts of it, or like the cultural significance, people have called it one of the best Irish movies ever made.
It's a big statement.
And they say that it has a great storyline. Pretty interesting, keeping a horse in a tower block flat. I'm assuming that's some type of apartment, a flat?
Well, it's going to be different because of it's
Yeah, I thought over in the UK they called apartments flats. Right? I don't know, I'm not apartment living city girl apparently. And I shouldn't be if I try to keep I can't keep a horse, I can't keep an apartment, I'm just stuck in the middle. I'd probably be right with those boys. I'd probably lose the horse.
I'm sure the viewers don't want to hear your opinions about life.
No. But sounds amusing. It's a family fantasy movie, so good for the kids.
I mean, with it saying culture significance, that's a pretty big deal as well.
People like connections to the culture.
It's true.
So if you're looking for a nice family picture for St. Patrick's Day and just a fun movie to watch, climb aboard Tir na Nog there and watch Into the West, because I think you're going to like it, and I certainly did. So, if you want another fun movie that is probably one of the biggest Irish movies you've never heard of, may I recommend one? They all seem to be from the 90s. A Ron Howard film called Far and Away. Now, I mentioned how The Quiet Man has a reputation because some people don't like it. One of those people is my mother. She does not like The Quiet Man. This is different. My father, my dad, does not like Far and Away. And I can see why. This movie is has another simple-ish premise to it. You have two people. You have Joseph, and then you have Shannon, who decide to go to America and jump into the American dream. They just want the American dream. But things don't go too well for them. Joseph decides to go into fighting. He loses, and within all this, he and Shannon are falling in love with each other, but then they want to separate, but then they want to come back together. And then finally they decide to jump into the big land rush during the late 1800s. Late 1800s, early 1900s. So the one thing you're probably looking at this movie and saying is, wait a minute, isn't that Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman? Well, you're right. And that's one of the main reasons why my father does not like this movie. You pick two of the most un-Irish people in the world to play Irish people. Now, unlike John Wayne, these two tried to do Brogues, and I think they're not awful. They're not the best, but they're not awful. And guess what? Colm Meaney is in this one too. He's everywhere. And the music in this movie is done by John Williams. So there are tons and tons of names connected to this movie. And it was a moderate success. And I think you should give it a try, definitely, because it is different and it is highly Americanized. But just to see these two together, because they were married at the time, so that's kind of cool. They did a movie together. Just to give it a shot, because it is fun, and no matter what some people say, it's not that bad. You get to see a little bit of the historical stuff, that how the Americans treated the Irish when they came over and stuff like that. So that's a good aspect, and you get a little bit of real history dipped in there, with the surroundings of events that are happening. Do you girls have an opinion of this movie?
So next up, we have Far and Away from 1992. It was directed by Ron Howard, and it was distributed by Universal Pictures. So this one is a romance drama. It actually has some pretty big names in it, like Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, and Thomas Gibson. So it is about a young Irish couple that flee to the States, but they struggle to obtain land and prosper freely. Now the ratings is a 4.5, and I actually have a quote from one of the reviewers. So the story tears at your heart while having moments that will make you laugh out loud. And that was said by Susie Rumsey. People have said it is structured kind of like a play, like there's acts 1, 2, and 3, okay. And it's shot almost like a stage set. And people really liked it, and most people said this is their favorite film, and they re-watch it every year.
So it sounds like they're going to the U.S. to try to get a little bit of that American dream, like own a home, own some land, find it difficult. So it's kind of like that feeling of going to find the American dream and then realizing it's not there.
Yeah.
So, oops. Definitely some struggles in there. Interesting.
Yep. Definitely probably relatable. Moving to a new place and then realizing what you wanted doesn't happen.
Yeah, but you never know until you go, so try new things.
True.
Yeah, so I think no matter what you think, it's a good movie. I like this. I think everyone should give it a chance at least. So now we come to a movie that was a new one to me. Again, coming from the early 2000s now. And we mentioned him before in Riverdance, the movie there, but you'd think we'd have a movie with Pierce Brosnan by now, who is Irish. He does ads for Discover Ireland. We finally got one called Evelyn. Now, I had heard of this movie, but I had never seen it before until very recently. And it was, again, based on a true story, which is really cool. And Brosnan plays a man named Desmond, who is left to care for his daughter Evelyn, which is why the movie's called that, and her brothers. However, the laws, there's a law problem, and he has to give the children up. And his wife leads him too, which is unfortunate as well. So he's forced to send the kids to an orphanage, and he has to find a way to change the court's mind and bring his kids home, which is the main goal. So it's a sad premise if you think about it, but it really is a very fun movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and the acting in this by the kids is very good. And me, I'll say I'm a Catholic here, but honestly, this movie makes you hate nuns. You really just want to come after them, and they are not nice. The way they treat the kids in the orphanage. There's only like one that you grow to like. Ooh, some of them, ooh, just rough. We also get a bit of Pierce Brosnan's lovely singing voice in this movie. If you are a fan or have seen Mamma Mia, the two Mamma Mia films, then you know how great Pierce Brosnan's voice can be when it comes to singing. This came before that. He must think he has a pretty good voice. It's not the best, but at least he's trying to sing Irish songs and not Swedish pop songs, so there you go. But yeah, no, if you want a good drama film that is based on a true story, I do recommend Evelyn, because you got a lot of fun in there. Aidan Quinn is also in this movie, and then if you're a fan of Pierce Brosnan, you get Brosnan back, which is always fun.
On the banks of the roses, me love and I sat down, and I took out my fiddle for to play me love a tune. In the middle of the tune, oh, she sighed and she said, "Ah, Johnny, lovely Johnny, would you leave me?" Oh, when I was a young man, I heard me father say that he'd rather see me dead than buried in the clay, sooner than be married to any wrong way. On the lovely sweet banks of the roses, on the banks of the roses, me love and I sat down, and I took out me fiddle for to play me love a tune. In the middle of the tune, oh, she sighed and she said, "Ah, Johnny, lovely Johnny, would you leave me?"
Because who doesn't want more Pierce Brosnan?
So this next film, titled Evelyn, was released in 2002 and directed by Bruce Beresford. Beresford? I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Sorry, Mr. Bruce B. And the summary is Desmond's wife leaves him and their 3 kids after Christmas in 1953. Unemployed in Dublin, the authorities place the kids in orphanages. Once employed again, Desmond tries to get his kids back. And this was loosely based on the true story of Desmond Doyle and his fight in the Irish courts. In ratings, I found that 76% of viewers liked the film, and one of the reviewers, named Robert Butler, writes, "For anyone who believes in the ability of a parent to change and become a better person out of genuine love for their children." So it seems like a family movie. Somebody, a parent who might be in a similar situation might relate, because I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that can relate in a similar fashion to this.
To get better for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good trait.
Yeah, it's what everybody wants in life.
Yeah. Parents that try.
You out there, try! Cut that. Don't say that.
So, now we come to two classic films that I thoroughly enjoy. The first is a film called The Secret of Roan Inish. Now, The Secret of Roan Inish is a bit of a fantasy film. You meet Fiona, who is a young Irish girl, and she is looking for her long-lost baby brother. And her grandparents adopt her on the coast of Ireland, and she soon gets to meet sort of the mythical creatures called Selkies, who shift from the form of seals to humans. Now, after they end up on the island of Roan Inish, that's the name of the island, Secret of Roan Inish, she believes that maybe her little brother is living by the sea. So she's looking for her little brother, and she thinks that maybe the Selkies are kind of protecting him or something like that. It's a good mythical Irish tale. Definitely taking it a little bit more seriously than Darby O'Gill with his leprechauns there, or Leprechaun the horror movie. And it's a nice little movie. It's definitely an indie Irish movie, because I think a lot of people don't know about this one necessarily. But it is a fun movie. The acting in this also is great. There are the Selkies right there, or is it just seals? We don't know. And yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy this movie. It can be a little slow at times, I think. because, you know, how many more explanations of these mythical creatures can we get? But once it gets going, and once you get the idea of what the secret could possibly be, then it's good. So I do recommend this movie, and let's see what the girls think about this one.
So now we have the film Secret of Roan Inish. I'm sorry, I'm not sure quite how to say that. And it was in 1994, and it was directed by John Salas. So sorry for butchering all these names, guys. It is a fantasy drama, and it's about a young Fiona lives with her grandparents in a small fishing village where she takes an active role to unravel the mysterious secrets. Now, this rating is a 4.7. People have called it a memorizing story, mystical and magical. It has beautiful scenery. Mostly when reading comments, it was really well loved. And people said it makes you believe in... I don't think that's correct, but it makes you believe in, like, miracles.
Okay.
That's what, yeah. So it makes you believe in miracles, which is nice to get something like that from a film.
Yeah, everyone likes a heartfelt kind of positive movie. What's the name for that?
What? Like
that
warm?
type of movie. Like warm, the opposite of like a tragedy. Which I mean, I guess in like would be like comedy, because comedy doesn't always make funny. We're off track again. I don't know where I was going with this. Yeah, everybody likes a film with a happy ending where miracles and good things happen.
I mean, I think it takes a lot to make people believe in something like that.
It does.
After seeing a film, to be filled with all those feelings.
Yeah, and I feel like
it takes a lot.
I feel like a lot of that is also reserved for Christmas movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to have it in a different genre that's not revolving around the holiday.
Yeah, feel good. But
Feel good
with
movie.
some fantasy, which is always nice.
Who doesn't love fantasy?
It's not listed as a feel good, but considering people's comments on it,
it sounds like a feel good
for at least some people.
There you go. So next time you see a seal, think to yourself, could it be a Selkie, and could you be looking for a long lost sibling? Makes you think, doesn't it? Next one is an all-time favorite. I will watch this almost any time of the year, but this is like my #1 St. Patrick's movie of all time. This one is called Waking Ned Devine, and guess what? It's as old as me. Waking Ned Devine. It's an Irish comedy. Thank God we have an authentic Irish comedy here. Basically, the premise of it is you take the lottery, right? Normal lottery, and this small town is watching the lottery. Everybody's waiting for the numbers to come, and somebody turns out winning. It's good old Ned Devine. That's his name, Ned Devine. However, the shock of winning kills him. So, these two friends, Jackie and Michael, they decide to take the winnings from good old Ned and split it among the town. And they need to, and what they need to do is they need to convince everybody in the town that Michael, that we saw there he is, is Ned Devine, and so the lottery man can give the winnings out, and it's a big winning. So, the famous scene of this movie, brace yourself, this is the famous scene, is Michael and Jackie there to a motorcycle chase, trying to get back to Ned Devine's house before the lottery man comes, on a motorcycle, naked, because they decide to do a little celebratory skinny dip. It's very, very funny. It's very, very clever. And there are a few names in this as well. Actually, the David Kelly, who plays Michael O'Sullivan there, the fake Ned Devine, there he is again. He's been in a few things. If you just look closely, you'll know him. And then James Nesbitt. James Nesbitt has been in a few things, and you will know him if you saw him as well. Everything about this movie is fantastic, if you ask me. The acting is fantastic. The music is fantastic, done by Sean Davey. And the story is just light and fun. So if you're looking for a good Irish movie, I definitely recommend Waking Ned Devine, or you might see it as just Waking Ned. It's the same movie. Let's see if the girls agree with me.
So this next film is Waking Ned Devine, released in 1998, directed by Kirk Jones. It is a comedy and indie film, or independent film. The summary is, when a lottery winner dies of shock, his fellow townsfolk attempt to claim the money. Nice, sweet and simple. I feel like it can go a lot of directions with the comedy aspect of it. It was rated a 4.7 stars out of 5. People wrote that it had perfect casting. It was quirky, clever, funny, and yet touching. It was timeless, and a lot of people are suspicious of those who don't like it.
Yeah. I know that also, when reading about this film, people said it felt very human. Because they felt like a lot of people would actually fight over somebody's money.
Yeah, like throw in that little slice of realism. And unfortunately, I think it probably would be.
And the guy that said he was suspicious of people who don't like it, I love that comment. Just based on the fact whether or not you like something.
I mean, just reading the summary, even though there's not a lot there, I was amused upon first reading it.
Yeah, because it's something that would actually happen, but they throw a little bit of comedy in there.
Yeah.
Nice slice of life.
Nice little shock factor.
Yeah.
Waking Ned Devine. It is an instant classic. It's as old as me, like I said, and you will love it. I promise. Now, when it comes to Ireland, there is no one more famous than St. Patrick himself. Oddly enough, there are a few movies out there about St. Patrick, but all of them seem to have something strange about them. There's an animated one out there that I remember seeing that is a little bit strange, if you ask me, but it gets the message across for kids. Then there was a TV movie more focusing on the legends of St. Patrick, and that's a little weird. Not because the story is, but also the effects. The effects were pretty bad. But if you want maybe like a good historical look at St. Patrick, you know, right down the middle of good and bad, I recommend a recent release movie called simply I Am Patrick. Now, the person we have playing Patrick in this is a familiar face. There he is, John Rhys Davies. Yes, John Rhys Davies. You have seen him in Raiders of the Lost Ark, Last Crusade for Indiana Jones. He was in The Living Daylights with James Bond. And then if you are a fan of the show Sliders, he was on that show as well, among other things. If you ask me, and if you know your religion, I think I would have picked him more as Padre Pio, but that's just me. And actually his role is very small in this. This film basically talks about St. Patrick's life as, you know, you would read about. And even the thing is describing it here, slave, bishop, rebel, blah, blah, blah. And the other thing about it is that it's more of a documentary. You think you're watching a movie at first, but then they throw interviews at you, and then it turns into a documentary. So don't be going into it saying, oh, I'm ready for a big movie, because it's only about half a movie. The other half is a documentary. But nevertheless, it is a great, it wasn't a bad description and showing of St. Patrick. It has a great presentation, I think, because they definitely did not hold back with storytelling and production. But if you see John Rhys Davies there and you're expecting him to be the lead role, it's more of like a supporting cameo at times, because he does do some narrations and you see him, but he's kind of there just spliced throughout the movie. Let's see if Michaela and Ashley have any words on this.
Alright, and this film, titled I Am Patrick, was released in 2020, so another more recent film. It was directed by Jared Anderson. And in this film, it peels back centuries of legend and myth to tell the true story of St. Patrick. Through historical reenactments, expert interviews, and Patrick's own writings, experience the journey from man to saint. So this is a documentary, I feel like documentaries are coming really into fashion right now. A lot of people have been liking them.
I think it helps when there's reenactments in it so that you can really get immersed in the story.
Yeah, more visual and, like you said, immersive. 87% of viewers liked it. People have written that they leave feeling a stronger spiritual life and energy after watching it. People have called it a masterpiece of a documentary, a powerful film, and Patrick has to choose between obey God or obey man. So I feel like that can be quite the internal argument.
I mean, considering people were leaving with a sense of spiritual energy or life, like I've never really heard that before when seeing a film. So that makes me actually quite curious, especially since it's a documentary.
Yeah, and I mean the story of St. Patrick does revolve quite a bit around religion and in those kind of older days where it was very much integral part of societies.
Yeah, and
it sounds very fascinating.
It did come out during the pandemic, and I do know people were upset that they couldn't see it in theaters.
So probably a lot of excitement was built up around this one.
Absolutely, and it sounds like a documentary to check out.
It does. I think I'll check it out.
Yeah, I want to feel some of that spiritual energy.
Energize me with your spirit, St. Patrick.
Yeah, I want to feel that.
So there has never been a perfect representation of St. Patrick in movie form, I think. But like I said before, if you're looking for a straight down the middle one, this might be the one to check out. So now we come to our final subject, and this subject, this point is fun. Everybody I talk to who knows this franchise doesn't like it. Nope, wants nothing to do with it. Believe it or not, even the people who made it don't like it. Now, here's something I bet you didn't expect to hear when it comes to St. Patrick's Day and Ireland. Star Trek! Yes, Star Trek! Believe it or not, there have been 2 episodes in the series Star Trek Voyager that focus on an Irish town. So, during Voyager's run, we have 2 episodes. One called Fairhaven, and one called Spirit Folk. And the main premise of these episodes, along with the normal Star Trek problem we need to solve, is Tom Paris, who is a member of the crew, decided to create a holodeck program. You know, everybody knows a holodeck, the recreation thing that is seen in Star Trek, about this quaint little Irish town called Fairhaven. Now, in the first episode, Fairhaven here, we see basically the crew trying to get the idea of Fairhaven. You know, we're trying to enjoy it here. And you even see good old Kate Mulgrew, Catherine Janeway, sorry. She created her own character, sort of. She decided to call herself Katie O'Clair. And the idea is that Catherine Janeway has some Irish blood in her, so this worked out perfectly. And so that's the idea of this movie. And she finds out that she's falling in love with the main character in Fairhaven here, Michael O'Sullivan, not to be compared to Michael Sullivan in Waking Ned Devine. However, this guy was in Ned Devine, so there you go. 6 degrees of bacon right there. And that's basically the premise of the first episode. The second episode, Spirit Folk, we revisit Fairhaven because there's been a, quote, open door policy engaged. And the holodeck characters decide to find out soon that, like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why are these people, like, disappearing and reappearing all the time? Why does something that's broken immediately get fixed? Something's weird. And they find out that Voyager is real, and they're fake, and they're just a program, you know, normal Star Trek holodeck situations. Each character does embrace it, though. I mean, because we saw Catherine Janeway doing her own thing. The Doctor here is playing the priest. Neelix is like the chef at one of the restaurants. The fun goes on and on and on. And if you want some good fun, I do recommend these episodes because you can't go wrong when it comes to Star Trek. Now, I know a lot of people question like, oh, Star Trek? No, I don't want to do that. But I think these episodes are fun. Don't listen to anybody that says, I don't like these episodes, because they are fun. And like I said before, if you don't like it, then you agree with the people who made the episode. None of the cast liked these episodes. They said, oh, this is stupid, this is ridiculous. Well, guess what? You would be with them, but don't believe them. It's good. I recommend it.
Okay. No, you mean Daniel doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Do you care?
No.
Exactly. Continue.
I don't need to know how more white you are. I know you're white. I don't need to know how much more white you are.
No. Just last film. Woohoo.
The show. So. Alright, ready?
Yes.
So this one isn't a film, it's a TV show, it's actually an episode. So this one is a Star Trek Voyager, Fairhaven / Spirit Folk, Season 6. And it was directed by David Livingston. I'm sorry, that's not how it's said. So for the summary, it's for the holographic inhabitants of Fairhaven, unworldly actions from Voyager personnel fit only one explanation: they're fairy folk. The summary for this episode is, for the holographic inhabitants of Fairhaven, unworldly actions from Voyager personnel fit only one explanation: they're fairy folk. Now, the ratings, or like at least the comments on this episode, were a little hard to find due to the age of it. But a lot of people are saying it's a fun one, but a dumb one. Which to me is probably one of the most fun episodes.
Yeah, kind of like a filler episode.
Yeah, but I find those kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of, when it's like a fun one but a dumb one, it just makes it endearing to me.
Mm-hmm.
As in, like, one I probably will remember, because I'd be like, oh, that was such a stupid episode, I love it.
Yeah.
That seems to be the consensus of it. Wasn't needed, but it was fun.
Yeah, so what about this was Irish? Was it, so it said it was based off of the fairy?
The fairy folk.
So is that kind of like old Irish lore?
So it's fairy as in Faerie. So that type of fairy.
Gaelic fairies and old lore. Interesting. I never really knew that Star Trek dove into like some cultural aspects like that.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen this one specifically, but they have traveled to different planets, and I believe at one time they even went back in time, but that was more like the original Star Trek. So just things that they were exploring and having fun with.
Explore the universe.
Definitely sounds like an episode to check out, especially because, you know,
Star
people
Trek,
really
not
said it
many
was
people
fun.
haven't heard of Star Trek. So.
Yeah. And I believe there's a new one coming out with Paul Wesley in it.
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know the
because I feel like I believe it was a weird casting.
But that's for a different film review.
Yeah, but you know what? I can't say anything about casting because it usually works out. They know. They know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Anyways, ready for the outro?
Yes.
So, thanks for having us, Danielle. It was fun talking about these films.
Yeah, very interesting to dive into Irish films. Something probably not a lot of people kind of dive into.
Yeah. After this, what's one of the film or TV show that you would check out?
I think the documentary seems really interesting, and I don't know. There's so many of them that kind of. Basically, I'd really like to get a sense of just like what the kind of Irish feel in a lot of these. And definitely the comedies. I do like comedies. Those are some of my favorite movies.
I definitely know that I actually want to go pay attention to The Leprechaun now. I think it would be very fun.
That's when I want to watch
with you, because I believe there's also a second one.
Ooh,
but the second one, I believe they know that they're making fun of themselves. So kind of like self-aware, making fun of themselves. So it sounds really fun.
It does.
And then that is about it. There have been, now I know when I say Irish movies, people say like, oh, is it going to be foreign? Is it going to be in Gaelic? Is it going to be something? Well, none of these are in a different language. They might be set in a different country. That might be the foreign aspect, but none of these are out of the country, because the Americans had something to do with pretty much every single one somehow. So I do recommend a lot of these. I think they are tons of fun, And if you want something new, if you just want to start a new St. Patrick's tradition, put in one of these. Hit play. See what happens. Maybe you'll enjoy it.
I guess we have to watch and find out. Popcorn. Let's have a movie night. I'm feeling Irish. I'm part Irish. Nobody cares. Continue.
Now, even though we've done the show by myself, and it has been fun, I've rambled a lot. We've had some guests here, which is awesome. I really appreciate that. But that's not going to stop us from playing the game. So let's roll it. Let's play Who Are You? Yes, so Who Are You? Of course, the normal game that we play at the end here. So there's the clip.
There are 8 million people in this city, and those teeming masses exist for the sole purpose of lifting the few exceptional people onto their shoulders. You, me, we're exceptional.
And I have it on a sure fact from our producer, Matt, who I played this before the show. He said that, and I quote, "This is Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin from the first Spider-Man film." Now, I thought, oh, well, that can't be right, because why would I pick someone green when we're talking about Irish movies? But let's see the answer.
There are 8 million people
Oh,
in this
look at that. He was right.
And those
He was right. It is Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 2002. Really cool to see him reprise this role in Spider-Man No Way Home. He did awesome in that. He will always be my Green Goblin. So congratulations, Matt. You win like what, 10,000 points? I think that's a good number. Yeah, I'll go 15,000? That's better. Okay, cool. Well, this has been fun. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing me talk about Irish movies. This will be our last themed regarding a month show. And because next month, I can promise you, we are going to have a line of people given the subject. It's going to be fun.
Yes. But I hope you guys enjoy the films or have enjoyed the films.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having us. Continue to watch As the Real Turns, hosted by Daniel Soletti.
And once again, I'm Michaela.
I'm Ashley.
And we're from DeBly Sisters Productions. Bye, guys.
Check out DeBly Sisters Productions. They've collaborated with me on a few things, which is really cool. So check them out. They're on YouTube and all the fun stuff like that. Until then, my name is Daniel Soletti. This has been As the Real Turns. That is a wrap.